Hello everybody, Mengaris here, and welcome to another Souls series Greatsword run thing. We're moving into Dark Souls 3, so it feels good, Let's see, do I have enough room to write the name? This time I do, good. Alright. Alright, which one has the highest strength? Probably going to be the 16 one. Alright. Let's get all this sorted out here. Oh yeah. Alright. Well, we're just getting into it. We're going to get the Greatsword and beat the game with the Greatsword. That's the plan. And this game should be probably the earliest that we can get the Greatsword besides Elden Ring. Because all we have to do is beat Vort and then run around through like a zone and a half, and then we can get the Greatsword. So it won't be that difficult to actually get the sword. So we should have it pretty quickly. The only worry I have is getting our skills up enough to reach that point. So yeah, right now we need to get our strength to, I believe it's 32 or 29 in this game. I wrote it down somewhere, but then I forgot where I wrote it down. Which is probably not good. I need to make that note clear. Find out where I put that thing. So pretty much all the levels are going to go directly into strength at the beginning. So this should be an interesting run where I will smack things very hard and then probably die a lot because my health will be very low by comparison. Shall see how it goes. Alright. First boss of the Dark Souls 3 run. So let's rock and roll. Ah, good opening parry. It's going to be a blessed run. It is going to be a blessed run. It's going to be a blessed run. Oh, good deal. We are in for a great run. Alrighty. Hello, lady. I will touch the darkness and level up many times. Alright. Okay, this might actually... we might actually reach it pretty soon. Where did I write down where those numbers were? Let me consult my... I always have a stack of papers on my, like, YouTube desk. Just because I bounce between, like, 18 different projects at one time. I should probably be more organized in the future. Okay, so it requires 28 strength and 10 dexterity. So we just need to level up 2 more times. Then we're good to go. That's going to be fantastic. Alright. Thank you for the level ups. Alright, let's go kill Mr. Schmuck out here. If I die, fuck it. Oh wow, I parried him and still died. Thanks, game. Alright, no crazy shit. Let's just attempt to kill him. But first, let's go grab a few goodies. Assuming the fog will let us. Please go away, fog. Alright, now let's try to fight Dickhead again. And this time let's win. Just can't get too greedy. Ah. Fuck you, Swordmaster. Give me a shit. I'm gonna sell it. That might actually be enough to level up. Now I think about it. Once I sell all the shit, that should be pretty close. Alright. Dex requirement met. Just need one more level, and then we can actually get going here. I was actually surprised that I was able to make such good progress this early. I thought it would take a lot longer and be a lot more tedious. Either way, let's get a move on. We still need to get the weapon after all. Oh, Dark Souls 3. Oh. Let us run this way to grab things. Alright. Let's head back to Firelink, since we can level up now. And with that, we should have everything sorted out for the sword. Now the only thing after this is weight limit. Hey! Lucky. Let's try to keep our vigor, endurance, and vitality even until we actually get the sword. Because I know I'm probably gonna need to have all of those evened up by the time we actually grab the weapon itself. Let's go, Vort! I'm ready to get my greatsword. Hello, I will grant you purpose. Good purpose. Yes. I require your levels. Your levels are quite sexy. The fuck? Her fat ass is just unstable, apparently. Did she get stunned by jumping off this rock? I'm trying to get the 20k I need to unlock that area upstairs so I can get the super duper Estus ring. If I remember correctly, the stamina shield upgrades with Twinkling Titanite. I need to make sure to save that type of material. Because I need basic upgrades, and then I need Twinkling Titanite. I don't think there's anything else that I'm going to want for the setup I'm running with. Shield! The shield! Blessed shield! Just gonna keep running. Just gonna keep on running. Fuck both of you guys. Alright, Greatsword is either up there or on the other one. I forget which one has it. Greatsword? No, it's the other one. Okay. Aha, Greatsword. Alright, I can actually roll with this. That's pretty nice. Let's just run this way since we can't really warp anywhere. At this point I'm just running around because I can't rest anywhere. Because that invader's here. I've almost got enough to upgrade it to the next little bit. I need 12 of the regular ones each time until we get to this lab. Actually, I have to wonder now, can an invader even get up here? So far as I know, they can't interact with the environment. Like, they can't activate lifts and shit, so would this actually be feasible? Alright, let's warp back down there, pick up our souls and shit. Then we'll head back, level up, upgrade, do all the shit that we need to do to prep. And then we'll go back to Undead Settlement and actually finish it proper. Ah, so close. So close. Actually, wait, when do I unlock regular shards? Ah, nice. What I figured we'd do is we'd level up as much as possible along the way to the Abyss Watchers, and then after we actually beat the Abyss Watchers, then we'll come back to Yoel level up when his level ups are far more valuable because they're more expensive. So we've got a plan. We've got a plan. We're doing well. Now let's head back to see, where do we want to go? Yeah, we'll go that way, unlock the shortcut, then fight the boss. Then we'll come back around the Seaward pathway. We'll fight that big demon, kill it, loot all the shit that's around there. Get ourselves a couple of extra rings. Should be a pretty good day. Alright, new plan. We're gonna unlock the shortcut. Then we're going to warp back. Then we're going to go to the tower, do all that tower shit, work our way back down here. Alright, let's run through here, loot some shit. Then we'll see if we can make it to the boss. I think we have enough Estus where we can take the drop damage and then still make it to the boss and be okay. Oh. Hello, Ludlith. You are small, but you will die a Colossus. Now can you turn tiny little souls into Colossus things as well? Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Just for the sake of having a little bit of extra healing. Alright, I don't have any upgrade materials, right? Yeah. Alright. Alright, with that way done, let's go through that other pathway. Actually, is there really even a point to go that way? I don't remember there being a lot of upgrade materials between those first two bonfires. Alright. Alright, let's head toward... Let's see... Let's head towards the cathedral. Fuck you! Oh, merciful goddess. I really just want to get him out of the way, that way he's not sitting here moaning the entire time we're here. That's one thing about these Souls games that's always really awkward and kind of weird, is all the... Like, you're guaranteed at least one, if not like 2 or 3 characters that just moan uncontrollably in these games. So it's one of those things where it's just, it feels fetishy. Like it feels more sexual than it probably should. One thing I'm really glad about Dark Souls 3, and like one thing that always annoyed me in I think Dark Souls 1 is probably the overall best Dark Souls game. And then by that I mean Dark Souls game. I don't count like Elden Ring and Bloodborne and that shit. But I mean, even then I still think Dark Souls is pretty strong. But I think one of the biggest things that I disliked about Dark Souls 1 is the way some of the mechanics worked for the gimmicks. You know, like the Bed of Chaos as a boss could have been an interesting idea if they made it a little less tedious and retarded. You know, like if they made it where the boss was still the boss, you know, but like it's one of those things where I think, you know, kind of comparing the Bed of Chaos to Melania, right? The Bed of Chaos could have been a really interesting puzzle sort of boss if they didn't have the floor crumbling. Like, if the floor didn't crumble and the boss would just smack at you and swat at you and use those fire spells and shit, I actually think it's a pretty decent, like, unique fight. It's not great, but it's not, you know, outright terrible like it is now because of the floor crumbling, right? It's just one of those things that the more I interact with that boss, the more I think, you know, if they just took out the floor thing, it would have been better. You know, kind of similar to how I feel about Melania. It's like, Melania's moveset is actually pretty sweet. The problem is that she's got ridiculous damage in her waterfowl dance and ridiculous self-healing on every single attack she does. You know, it's one of those things that just makes the fight... like, this is one thing that I've learned as I've played more of these games and as I've written scripts for videos talking about criticisms I have of these games. One big problem I've found throughout this series is just the extension of tedium, right? And what I mean by that is you have bosses that have a really good moveset or have a really cool gimmick or have something really interesting going on, but they purposely throw something in to extend the fight in some arbitrary way, right? You know, like, and Elden Ring has a very, very, very bad case of this, where they've just got so many bosses that have, you know, a decent moveset or an interesting gimmick, but then they overdo it completely by giving the boss way too much health. They let them restore health. They let them, you know, they basically overdo it, right? And that's the thing that I think makes Elden Ring's endgame really kind of annoying to a lot of people, is because, like, by the time you hit, like, in my opinion, like, from Malekith to the end of the game, you kind of run out of bosses that fight in a unique way beyond just health and damage types. You know what I mean? Because they become so AoE spammy that it becomes kind of tedious and one-note after a while. Like, Radagon was a boss that used to piss me off. Now I've kind of gotten used to his attacks, and I think they're kind of cool. But it's a thing where Radagon, I think, is a really good fight because of the way several of his moves work. Whereas Godfrey is a really annoying fight because of the way he spams AoE attacks over and over and over and over and over, and spams grabs over and over and over and over and over in a second phase, right? It's just a thing that just makes the fight seem extremely tedious when you're fighting him and you're losing. It also makes it extremely one-note when they do like the same attack over and over. You know, if there's like when there's a simple way to dodge it. You know, it's like you made a moveset that was varied, and then made the AI spam one attack over and over and over instead of, you know, shifting throughout the set. You know, and kind of coming back to the Bed of Chaos thing, it's like the Bed of Chaos again could have been an interesting, unique boss. You know, but because of the floor crumbling, because of one thing that tips the boss over the edge, it's looked at as the worst boss in Dark Souls 1. Right? You know, and that's something that I don't think people really talk about a lot is, you know, how many bosses could be fixed by a simple change, right? Like one simple change. Like one thing that I would love to see, you know, would be just a mod that, you know, fixes things about certain bosses. You know, like it's kind of a thing where each Dark Souls game, and kind of by extension each Fromsoftware game, has different issues, I think, that play, you know, because it's one of those things where it seems like they listen to the community, but at the same time, they listen to everyone in the community, right? So that includes the masochists that, you know, want a boss that will just kick their teeth in every single fucking time, right? And that's something that I don't think helps them in the long run, because like we've kind of seen with Elden Ring, at least from my perspective, it seems like they're beginning to hit that brick wall of like, okay, what do we do with bosses now? Because we've given them ridiculous combos, extreme AoE damage, you know, high, very hard-hitting abilities, you know, we've delayed several attacks that they had. Like, they've basically used all the tricks that I can think of that encompass things that would catch someone out in an earlier Souls game, right? But, like, how do you do this? It's like, you just do those things more at this point, you know? Like Dark Souls 3 was, I guess you could say part of Dark Souls 2, but like part of Dark Souls 2 and 3 both started experimenting with a delayed attacks thing, right? And then Elden Ring went full bore into that shit, where there are several attacks that are just delayed beyond regular delays. You know, like the Margit and Morgott fights are really, really good examples of that, where it's just, you know, they have a swing, there's a wind-up, and that wind-up goes on for like almost 2 full seconds, you know, probably more, you know, and that's kind of a thing that I see as a problem, because you're taking something that used to catch players out and just arbitrarily extending it, you know. You know, it doesn't make the fight more engaging when the fight is, you know, when the moves are delayed an extra second when they used to be delayed 1 second, now they're delayed 2. You know, it doesn't change the fight in an interesting way, it just makes it take longer, you know. And that's something that I've found that Elden Ring has a massive problem with, is just fights that arbitrarily take forever to finish. You know, it's one of those things too, like I said, Melania is a really good example of this. If she had a reasonable damage amount for Waterfowl Dance, and if she, you know, didn't have her self-healing, I would consider her the best boss that Fromsoftware has made. Right? Incredibly unique movesets, really, really cool aesthetic, very, very, very wide moveset. It's just, you know, it's just that self-healing is the thing that kicks the boss over the edge and makes it where it's super tedious to fight. Because one Waterfowl Dance will restore at least a quarter of her health if it hits you. Right? And that's just, it's just annoying. And it's one of those gimmicks that I think ruins bosses. You know, like, and a good example that I would use to kind of be the anti-Melania would be Malekith. I think Malekith is a really good boss fight. Because of, well, specifically the second phase. I don't really care too much for the first phase of Malekith's fight. But, you know, the second phase of Malekith is kind of the opposite of Melania. You know, Melania hits very, very, very hard most of the time. You know, but you can stun lock her, but she also has some really cheap moves. right? Malakath hits kind of like a glass cannon with an added, destined death effect, right? So every time he hits you, it's incredibly damaging and incredibly dangerous because your health is depleting while, you're dealing with him. And that's something that I think Malakath is... I think Malakath is balanced much better than Malenia is. That's something that I think is something a lot of people don't talk about, at least from what I've seen. Now, granted, I don't really look up a lot in the Souls series beyond just like answers to questions of where items and shit might be. I don't frequent forums to get people's opinions on things that often. But yeah, just as the Souls series goes on, my appreciation for Dark Souls 1 and the way it's balanced just improves just every time. Because even with Dark Souls 1's flaws, it's a very well-rounded project, right? Just in terms of the way the design works. The map, was probably the best Fromsoftware map up until Elden Ring. That's something that Elden Ring, definitely expanded on. But it's just one of those things where Dark Souls was a very complete FromSoft package, A lot of interesting bosses with different gimmicks. A lot of bosses with varying aesthetics. Some of them were resistant to certain things that you'd have at certain points in the game. There was the magic path, there was the fire path, there was the ghost path, there was the the undead path. They each had their own gimmick that wasn't overpowered, but it made each area feel very unique. It made each area work in a very unique way. Path of the Giants, it's dark. The skeletons reassemble, on the way down to the Tomb of the Giants, right? Seath's Pathway, a lot of the enemies are very resistant to magic, And there's a lot of magic-related shit going on down there. Bed of Chaos, there's a lot of fire-based things, there's demons. The aesthetic affects it in a mechanical way that makes each area unique and interesting and difficult in its own way. That's the biggest thing that I have against some of the later games, is that a lot of the gimmicks just become really tedious. And that's the thing that really gets me about these games, is when they go the tedious route, I almost don't want to fight the fight in a fun way. I want to cheese it just to get it over with. Like Malenia, again, if there was no health steal, it would be a really fun fight. I think it would be a really fun fight and arguably the best boss they ever made. But because of the health steal, it usually ends up being a thing where I either try to cheese the boss as quickly as possible, with either a destined death summon or just spamming Malakath's weapon art, and so that makes the fight extremely tedious because now it's a red light, green light situation where, I just spam the ability because that's what works against her, and it's not an engaging fight because I'm spamming something that I really shouldn't have to. Right? And it's, again, a lot of people would just say, get good where you don't have to spam that. It's like, but that's the problem, though, is I can spam that and beat the boss. Right? It's not that I want to do it that's the problem. It's the fact that I can do it and it works pretty consistently that's the problem. Because it shows that they weren't thinking about exactly how a weapon art like that... a weapon art like that can utterly rape Malenia. Right? Just destroy her. The only thing you have to worry about is Waterfowl Dance. And even then, there's like a very simple way to dodge it. Now some people might miss that, and several people do miss it, and it is tied into your roll, which I think the tweaks to the roll system are something I have very mixed opinions about in and of itself. But again, just I've got a lot of opinions about Elden Ring and how it kind of compares, because I think Elden Ring is the closest thing to Dark Souls 1 that we've gotten since Dark Souls 1. Mainly just because of everything that they took from Dark Souls 2, 3, and Bloodborne in making Elden Ring. And Sekiro too, but I try not to comment on Sekiro too much because I played it for like 4 hours. The controls were awful on PC, like uniquely awful, even by FromSoftware standards. And it's just one of those things where the port wasn't that great, and the buttons are so different that it's just... I tried playing that game. I like the idea of it, but I just couldn't get the game to work. I basically just didn't get good at that game, and I'm very fine with quitting it. Well, yeah, I've got a lot of opinions about these games because I play the crap out of them, as you can tell. This is probably my, like, 30th run-through of Dark Souls 3 for the channel, including runs for the commentary I did. So yeah, if you can't tell, I like these games. I think they're neat. But yeah, lots of opinions. This is one of the things that makes me want to make some sort of video on Elden Ring, you know, just to kind of talk about things that I have very strong opinions of. But it's one of those things that just I have to think about it, because Elden Ring is the kind of game that's so new that I don't feel like I can do a commentary of it until all the content with it is out, sort of a thing. Because my commentaries are usually a retrospective look at a game once it is complete, right? Which I think is a pretty fair way to look at a game. You know, because a lot of games open with bugs, which, on the one hand, it's like, they should fix those bugs, right? Like, they should have quality assurance people and play testers testing shit out to make sure that that shit doesn't happen. You know, but still I can understand, especially in a game like Elden Ring where there's so much fucking going on. But yeah, it's one thing where Elden Ring is a game that I would like to talk about for one reason or another, but it's just, there's so much I want to say, and the game's not completely finished yet. You know, and that's the biggest thing that kind of holds me back. It would also be a massive undertaking in terms of doing something for a game that I don't really know, like, how I would organize it. You know, because regular Souls games are pretty simple to organize in the way that I do it. It's like area by area, you know, which is not hard to do at all. You know, but Elden Ring is so massive that I would have no idea how to organize that. It's kind of like doing Skyrim in a way, or Subnautica, where I like to script things based on sort of what section of the game you're in. You know, and in Souls games, it's usually based on, like, the level. But, yeah, that's something I might get to later on. With the announcement of the DLC being relatively recently and it coming out, give it a few months just to see how the DLC gets patched for various reasons and things. And after I played a few times, I might consider doing an Elden Ring commentary, but I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. You know, and that's one thing that I think kind of hurts the content in the long run, is that I wait till the game is completely done. So, and by that point, most people are kind of done with the game, you know, or people move on to another game. But then again, the Souls series games and the Fromsoftware games tend to perform pretty well. You know, like I released a Dark Souls 2 commentary like 6 years after it came out, and that video did really well. And my commentary Dark Souls 3 did pretty well when it came out about 6 years after that. So hopefully I can cover some more recent games, because all my commentaries up to this point are at least like 6 years old, or 8 years old at this point, in terms of games. Alright. I guess I'll get back to playing this game. I've been ranting about Elden Ring and Dark Souls 1. But anyway, I just think upon replaying Dark Souls 1, I think it's just a really well-made game from start to finish. Even the bad parts, you know, you can tell were kind of rushed. You know, but the way the total package works, I think, is pretty hard to beat. You know, and all the other games just have either taken a step back in one way or another over the years since then. You know, and that's something that I feel pretty strongly about. That, you know, no game has really reached that Dark Souls level of quality throughout. You know, like, as good as a lot of stuff in Elden Ring is, there's still a lot of shit. There's still a lot of lazy duplication of bosses, enemies, all this shit. You know, and that's something that I think, you know, it's kind of sad in a way that Fromsoftware, you know, a company known for creating very unique encounters, essentially went the Ubisoft route and just made enemies and bosses that repeat. You know, it's kind of disheartening. Just one of those things where they went for the Let's make more shit approach. And I miss when Fromsoftware games had every boss be unique. Seems like they've made like 1,000 derivatives at this point with Elden Ring. It seems like they're just going to continue to do derivative shit like this moving forward. Because Elden Ring sales are huge. And it's not just because of Fromsoftware's design being unique, it's because they've basically catered to the Ubisoft-style audience, the Skyrim-style audience of normies. You know, and they're going to find great success in that, and they've continued to keep things difficult, but at the same time, it's like I feel like they're going to slowly transition away from the Soulsborne shit that most of the older Soulsborne players liked and move towards something much different. Which, I mean, a company needs to evolve as time goes on. I'm not against companies evolving and changing things and trying new shit out, but I'm really curious and kind of worried for what happens after Elden Ring. Just because, you know, Elden Ring is fun until you know, like this is something that I've found in a lot of Souls games is your first run is the most intimidating because you're learning everything. Every subsequent run after that usually ends up becoming a lot more fun and engaging because now you know where shit is, now you can prepare for it, and now you can actually take the time to go through it and think, oh, okay, you know, X, Y, or Z is here, so I can get X, Y, or Z weapon. You know, it's good against X, Y, or Z enemy. You know, there's just a lot of shit that you can... You know, the more you learn about the game, the more fun it becomes because of that knowledge that you have. Right, and that's something that I think is kind of forgotten in Elden Ring, because once, you know, like, completing these games, you play through a majority of the game. You know, like completing, you know, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Sekiro, Bloodborne, you play through the majority of the game, right? With Elden Ring, you skip a good, like, 70% of the content once you know what you're doing. Just because you know that, okay, this dungeon has a boss in it that drops an item that I don't need, so I'm not going to go through the dungeon. And that kind of shit, you know, radically reduces, you know, replay value. You know, because you essentially skip the content of the game. You know, it's kind of similar to Skyrim in a way, where, you know, upon beating the game, quote unquote, where you've done every quest line, then you just gravitate towards the ones you like and kind of ignore the rest. Alright, well, we made a pretty good run so far. We've made it basically to the cathedral and unlocked a whole bunch of shit towards the Abyss Watchers, so I think we're roughly a quarter of the way through the game at this point. But yeah, we'll see how this goes in the future, and I'd just like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys later.